guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. This is Alaunna Raffield. I had been learning about the case from my friend Brooks's channel, Crime Lines and Lies. And this is a crazy, crazy case, guys. This beautiful 14-year-old girl was found by her mother, lifeless, on December 8th of 2020 in their garage with a gunshot wound to the head. Now, there's way too many questions, and we're going to go through that, but law enforcement ruled her death a suicide, and the family, they're not buying it, and I'm not buying it either. By the time you hear about the facts and the case, I think you're going to be wondering why it was ruled a suicide as well.
I used to come in here every day. I still come in here a lot. I'll just sit on her bed or sit in her chair just so I can feel close to her. Sometimes I talk to her in here.
Alana Raffield hasn't been here in 2 years.
It still smells like her.
She was Heather's only child, just 14 years old.
Her cheer uniform's still on the floor. I can't even bring myself to pick it up.
2 years it's been there, untouched.
Probably forever. I can't.
About 6:15 that morning,
December 8th, 2020.
Heather got up to let the dogs out, and I was in there getting ready for work.
And heard something in the garage. It was his wife, crying.
Heather was kneeling down next to Alana, and she was laying on the ground, flat out on her back. So we called 911.
And police showed up.
They kept asking us questions about, is she left-handed? Was she in a physical altercation the night before or anything? Because she had bruises on her abdomen, and there was a gunshot on her left side.
Alana is right-handed, but a gunshot went through the left side of her head and exited the right. No bullets or bullet holes have ever been found. There was no note, and Kevin and Heather say they never heard the sound of a gunshot in their small home. It wasn't unusual for Alana to get up in the middle of the night to let out her puppy, but what was unusual is the way she was found.
To be standing like this, facing out that way, there's a big blank wall there that there would be a bullet hole. There was nothing.
And
So there was no sounds heard, no gunshots, nothing. And we're going to get more into the left-handed gunshot wound and what have you. But that's her stepdad. And of course, that was her mom speaking at the beginning in her room. Breaks my heart. She was facing that direction that he's showing. They found no bullet, no gunshot, nothing. That would kind of make you think, well, did this actually happen in this garage? I mean, that's what I would think, right? They found nothing but her, Alana, lying on the floor, dead.
still isn't. What little evidence Alana's parents believe could exist, they say, either was never given a second look or was destroyed. Within weeks, her death ruled a suicide.
Okay, so they have filed a lawsuit. I'm not going to get into the civil suit in this particular video. I will definitely do more on that. I wanted to just cover the basics of this particular case. Now, the facts are on December 8th, 2020, her mama, Williams, found her only child's lifeless body in the garage with a gunshot wound to her head. And then a month later, her death was officially declared a suicide. How could it be a suicide when you can't find a bullet? You can't find any kind of bullet holes. And she as the stepdad saying she's got bruising to her abdomen. There's just so many questions. There was a former police officer who ended up actually heading the case. This is a little town. They don't have a lot of, I guess, experience, you would say, in this sort of thing. And that's what it kind of reminded me of the Sean Daughtry case, which I did cover. I think I covered it last year, it may have been earlier this year, where that young boy's death was ruled a suicide. And there's a lot of questions to that as well. So, Prague, they should have put it on the state police to investigate this, the state bureau, but they didn't. So, you had this officer, Matthew Hensley, who was doing the best that he could. He was leading the investigation, and he's basically stating that there was not a whole lot being done on the case, not a whole lot of ambition, or want to try and figure it out, is it a suicide or not? So pretty much the department was like, it's a suicide, let it go. And, if this is your daughter, this is your niece, your friend, I think you want to know the truth, and you don't want to have a sloppy investigation. I mean, really, that's the bottom line. According to Hensley, again, he led the investigation. The house was small, and no one heard the gun go off in the night, and not even the neighbors heard it. And again, like I said, there was no bullet or bullet holes were ever found in that garage. And although Alana was right-handed, she was shot from the left side of her head. So let's think about this, okay? If you're going to shoot yourself in the head, you're likely going to do it with your dominant hand. I mean, so I'm also right-handed, so if you were to do it, I mean, aren't you going to use your strongest hand? I mean, most things that we do are with our dominant hand. And another thing to think about is most women, most ladies don't really take their own lives that violently. For the most part, you would take pills. I sadly had a friend who basically asphyxiated herself in the garage inside her vehicle. So yeah, usually guns, they're not really used for most women. And among the missteps in the case include fingerprints that were never taken from the gun, and there was no immediate testing done for gun residue on Alana's skin or clothing. So they didn't check her hands to see if there was gunshot residue. I mean, I'm not an investigator, I'm not a CSI, but I mean, just from enough watching these cases, following these cases, I mean, that's just, like, to me, common sense, like 101, you would think, right? For an investigation, for the crime scene and the medical examiner, what have you, they would bag her hands, okay, and they would check it for gunshot residue. That's what they do when they're searching for a suspect. They check for gunshot residue, and if they assumed that she took her own life, they would have found gunshot residue on her hands. It was never checked. So that particular evidence is just gone at this point. And again, she was shot from her non-dominant hand. And her clothing was never checked. She was wearing apparently a sweatshirt from her brother, and they never checked her clothes, and ends up that the funeral home ended up giving it back to her family, her mom, and they washed it 3 times. But that's not their fault. They wanted to, try to do what they could do. And I mean, at that point, you're going to assume if at the funeral home, I don't think that they're thinking, oh, there's evidence here, at that point. And then, of course, the fingerprints. Another no-brainer, you'd think, right? What about the fingerprints? Very, very strange to me that was not, that either her hands weren't checked, her clothes weren't checked, and there's no fingerprints that were checked. I mean, again, it just seems to me like super sloppy police work. And you guys know here, I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement. And I always say that I'm not a cop, I'm not an investigator, but golly, people, this is ridiculous that you're going to rule someone's young daughter, okay, who's, from what her parents are telling, she was of rational mind. She didn't have any depression issues. Mom said she always journaled. Seemed like everything was happy, everything was good. And why would she all of a sudden just supposedly pick up a gun and decide, hey, we're gonna end it all? And then somehow she does this to herself, and then she gets rid of the bullet, gets rid of the I mean, come on, guys. I mean, that's just, it's ridiculous to me. And that's why, if they couldn't handle this case, and I'm not blaming the officer, because he did his best. He didn't have a lot of experience, and apparently once they decided to close the case, he put his resignation in, and he's no longer a police officer. So he definitely, I guess, decided to step away from it all. So it's very strange to me, though, that how really it just wasn't investigated really at all. Then we've got the one person of interest, Cody. Okay? Cody apparently was a 18-year-old boy whom Alana had a friendship with. Apparently he thought it was more than that, but he admitted to police that he logged into Alana's social media account after her death. I mean, that's not suspicious or anything, to get pictures. Well, I also want to know that how he logged in there, and what was he trying to hide? Like I said, super sus to me. He also admitted to investigators that he's the one responsible for multiple cryptic messages sent from Alana's account after her death. So he somehow was involved in her social media, grabbing her photos, posting stuff. I mean, who the hell does that? And isn't a part of a horrific crime such as this? To me, that just puts red flags, sirens, just like warning, warning, warning. Danger, Will Robinson, all over this guy. Now, police did search his phone for a disturbing video the boy told police he had that detailed how to make a murder look like a suicide. That's odd. See, to me, it's like all these Google searches, you have these text messages. To me, it's like we see them all the time. These are usually like a huge part of like, oh my gosh, you are so dumb that you did all these searches, you searched for these things, and obviously you're the guilty one, or you know something about this. Yet he's still free. Now, however, his cell phone location would reveal perhaps a more telling evidence of all, where he was at the time of Alana's death. When asked where he was on the night of her death, he changed his story multiple times. It was like 3 or 4 times he's like, I was here. That's another sign, another red flag, exclamation points above the head, that, hey, something's wrong here. If you're telling the truth, you're going to have a solid story. The more you change your story, because you can't keep up with your lies and your deceptions if you're changing your story. And a police report revealed that he he said Alana was the love of his life and he would spend forever with her. Okay. She's 14, 3 weeks away from being 15 when this happens. He's 18. From what mom says and stepdad says, little odd. And again, his actions are not adding up. His actions aren't adding up with her social media. His changing his story. I was here. No, I was here. No, I was here. And him, and especially the search for how to make a murder look like a suicide. I mean, come on, guys. Woo! To me, it's like if Prague police couldn't handle this because they just don't have the experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. They could have said, we just can't handle this. We need the state police involved in this. We need the state bureau. So they could have had them come in Oklahoma, and they would have taken care of this case, and hopefully they wouldn't have ruled the same way. And we're looking at, this is almost October. This is the end of September of 2023. This poor family is going to be almost 3 years without their daughter. And all this time, her death certificate is reading that she took her own life. I mean, I if that was my daughter or somebody that I knew, I would be furious. And her mama is more saddened than furious, because I'm sure she doesn't really care. She just wants her daughter back, and that's the last thing that sadly can happen. But to me, it's shoddy investigative work. And these officers were just not experienced. They weren't skilled enough to deal with this case. And it should have been put, to someone with more experience. That's really the bottom line. So Alana's Voice, it's a Facebook page that has a lot of great information. There's some of the police report up on here, and I'm not going to go through all of it in this particular video, but here is part of the narrative from Officer Matthew Hensley about Cody. He spoke with one of the, I believe it was a friend. Who is Cody to you? Answer. AT stated Baker is a friend of AR's. AR is Alaunna Raffield. Is that AR talked to her about. AT stated Baker was also a previous adoptive cousin of hers. So I believe his name is Cody Baker. AT stated Baker is very hateful and angry all the time. AT stated she did not like Baker too well due to him being hateful all the time. AT stated the incident happened at Gordon Cooper Technology Center with Baker. AT stated he came up to her and requested to see photos of AR on her phone. AT stated she gave the phone to Baker, not thinking anything of it. AT stated when she got the phone back, she noticed all of her pictures and text messages were gone. Yeah, that's weird. AT stated she began to tell Baker he needed to stop being disrespectful to the Williams family. AT stated he became upset and started talking about a friend he has in Shawnee that murders people and makes it look like an accident. Another red flag. I asked AT if he stated a name of this person. AT stated Baker did not give her a name of this person, but stated he was very well known in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And they're asking about a Colton. And then he goes on to say what was deleted on your phone. AT stated all of her pictures of Alana and text messages. Why the hell would Cody do that? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that's what he asked her. Why would Baker delete your phone? Answer. AT stated she was not sure, but felt that if Baker could not have pictures on his phone, then no one can. AT stated Baker seemed like he thought he was the only one that could be upset about AR. What was the form of harassment Baker did on the bus? AT stated there was no harassment from Baker and the incident did not happen on the bus. Not sure what that's about. Any inappropriate photos between you or Baker? Answer. AT stated over a year ago she sent a picture of herself in her bra to Baker, but nothing other than that. Was anyone jealous of one another? Answer. AT stated no, but it was kind of a weird situation. AT stated Baker used to be her adoptive cousin, but he stated he liked her. AT stated Baker appears to quote-unquote groom younger girls and control them, making them feel as he is their only home. Yeah. Sounds to me like Cody was obsessed with Alana. It's so weird to me. It's so weird. All the things, and I haven't even gotten through all of it yet, that this Cody was involved with. Why would he change his story? I mean, why would he change his story again 3 or 4 times? Why would he be asking about, looking up things about murder or suicide? And then he's telling a friend that he knows somebody who can kill people and make it look like an accident. Yeah. And again, this should have all been not closed by local PD. It should have all been given to OSBI, and they should have handed them this case and said, listen, this is too heavy for us. We don't have the experience. Take this case over so that it's solved correctly. But that's not what happened. They ruled her death that she took her own life. It's horrible. There's no words. And the last thing I wanted to show is there's a video. Another video. There's no audio, but so you have to read the screen. So let's check it out. This family deserves answers. And I agree with her. I agree with Molly. This family was failed by law enforcement. It's just there's no excuse for that. We rely on these investigators, CSI, these experts trained for this to be able to figure out what happened if and when one of our loved ones is hurt or sadly killed. They deserve to know what happened to Alaunna. They deserve to get her justice, because this sweet young 14-year-old girl, I don't believe she took her life. Someone else did this to her. This was foul play. And they need to be brought to justice. Let me know what you think of this case in the comments. I'll do some more videos and cover some more on it. But with that said, that's all I've got for this one. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.